pretty girl.
Okay, there we are. Marvelous. Alrighty, welcome everybody. Today is the day where we get to host a Q&A with the founder of the Wildcat Sanctuary, the one and only Tammy Thies. And we're so excited to have everyone. I'm seeing our audience file in here. We have your questions that you've submitted for Tammy, and we're going to go ahead and roll right into it. I'll have my phone here, and if we scoot through our questions and I see a couple other good questions, if we have time, I would love to field them. But nonetheless, happy early birthday to Tammy, who's will be celebrating her 50th birthday tomorrow. We've been celebrating with our Fill the Freezer fundraiser, and now we want to get to know the person who makes all things Wildcat Sanctuary possible a little more.
Well, first I have to address the elephant or the dog in the living room. As you guys saw today and over last week, we announced that Miss Kiara here, a Pyrenees Shepherd Mix, will be joining our feline family. She's not supposed to be on the couch, but I did allow it today, and we had a visitor that kind of taught her of it. So this is an exception, not the rule, but you can see she's pretty comfortable here. So, but I'm happy to be here. I'm so thankful for everybody that's given to the Fill the Freezer fundraiser so far, and excited to hear some of the questions.
Marvelous, marvelous. Well, we're going to start off with, and this is a question that you've frequently been asked before, but why don't you give us maybe kind of a contracted version of what made you start the Wildcat Sanctuary?
Yeah, you know, I was in advertising for a living, so I was not an animal care person at all. And one of the photo shoots I was on, I was really upset about how the gentleman was using animals for entertainment. It was not my photo shoot, but one in the next studio. He had tigers, he had black leopard, and so I kind of wormed my way into what he was doing, and the more and more I experienced it, the worse and worse it got. Everything from exhibiting animals, from breeding and selling animals, to even seeing animals that were going to be electrocuted for the fur farm trade. It got worse and worse in my mind, and I just needed to be somebody that fixed it. And I reached out to Tippy Hedren, who ran a sanctuary, and others, thinking I was doing a great thing. And back that time, there wasn't a lot of sanctuaries. There was few, and they were really overpopulated, and the demand was too much. And so Tippy kind of kept pushing me a little bit to say, if you really want to help the problem, you need to start a sanctuary and help accommodating the cats that you want to get surrendered or get seized. And so that's kind of how it took. That's a little more complicated than that, but you guys will post the story I wrote on the evolution of the sanctuary, because there's so many different tracks that all leaded to one track that had me change my career and start the sanctuary.
And kind of segueing off of that, you mentioned Tippy, and who were some of the people, you're coming from this marketing and advertising world, and now you're going to start a sanctuary. Who were some of the people supporting you during this time?
Yeah, it's interesting, because I had industry people, but I also had families. So when you start a nonprofit, you do it out of your heart, not necessarily out of your head. And there isn't any money, there isn't any location, you're learning your way through it. And so honestly, my family financially and emotionally supported me. My husband came into it when he thought it was a hobby and realized it was not a hobby, and he's always said that. I knew I was second to the sanctuary, I just didn't know I was like 126th or 127th, that each animal came first. But I will tell you, I've been very, very lucky to have a very supportive family that knows I've missed holidays, I've missed everything that you can think of a family should be, that I've had to call and say, hey, I can't, or I've had to leave in the middle of because of the sanctuary. And so I'm forever grateful for my family who still supports to this day the work that we do here.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that's something, I talk about on live posts, and we emphasize of this lifestyle is a lifestyle, and it's not something where you're going to be living so much of an ordinary life like others are, and it's a big sacrifice.
It's a sacrifice to me, it's a sacrifice to all the staff that are here. I'm really pleased at the sanctuary and the people that are here today, because we really want to professionalize the industry. I mean, anybody in dog and cat rescue or starting a sanctuary or founder knows you don't have savings. All your savings goes to it. All your holidays, all your time. Every time you go shopping, you don't shop for yourself. You have to also do all the sanctuary errands, and it's all consuming, which in the beginning is energizing, but compassion fatigue can really set in. And I really feel strongly that we shouldn't have to suffer personally to do good professionally for the animals. I think we need to have a better balance because we're going to burn out people. I know I've been burnt out. I know I have friends in the industry that are burnt out, and thank God they stepped in to help me and support me when I needed it, because it's a hard job what we do.
Yeah, most definitely. And still kind of thinking about the origins of TWS. I mean, and I know you kind of talked about what led to starting the sanctuary, but was there any kind of twinkle in your eye when you were younger that you would be doing this type of work?
I think it was one of those things you all thought about. Everybody thought to be a veterinarian, or I unfortunately took my goldfish out of their bowl and slept with them on my pillow as a child, and that did not end well for the goldfish. And so my mom remembers me always loving animals and bringing home animals, and my favorite cat being young was a cheetah. Which has changed even though we have cheetahs here over the years. Now I love Joffreys and Caracals. I kind of like the little nasty Spitfire ones. But I don't think this was never my plan. My plan was always to be corporate America, advertising career, traveling around the country. When I started the sanctuary, I had the islands of the Bahamas as my client. So everybody who would love to go to the Bahamas 2 weeks out of the month paid, I was like, oh my God, I got to get back to the sanctuary. I'm trying to run this and start the sanctuary. And so it just became hard for me to sit in a meeting where a corporate client wanted to pay $30,000 to change the highlight of their logo on their boot or something like that, when I knew there was an animal in need and I'm waiting to get a call back to go pick up a rescue tiger cub or something. It just, to me, it just didn't have the same thing hitting my heart. And so I loved my career when I had it. I'm thankful for my career because it taught me how to market and connect with people, and things like that. And I loved the people I worked with. We still have so many people from the Coca-Cola company and Fallon Advertising where I used to work be donors, and things like that. It just was time for me to do something and follow my heart.
Yeah, and that always sticks out to me of how much of a 180 that was from you to go from the marketing and advertising world to the now sanctuary world, but also how much of that has translated over in terms of the marketing and advocating for the cats. And that kind of leads me into another question is, did that marketing experience help you initially kind of finance for the sanctuary as you're getting started? And
the thing that was funny is when I was 29 or right when I started the sanctuary, I was making more money at 29 at an ad agency than I was up until 2 years ago as the founder and director of the sanctuary. So, for my age, I was making great money, and when that job ended, I had to put all my savings, all my personal money into the sanctuary. And you don't get paid back for that, not financially, but you sure get paid back in reward of the work you're doing. And so there's a lot of learnings that I would love to share with early nonprofits. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. I've got burnt out. I've taken on too much at times, and I've had support of others to help me through it. I would love to do that for other smaller sanctuaries and even other rescues to kind of say, you don't have to go through the hardships that I've gone through. I'm not one of those people that said, I went through it, I'm not going to help you. I'd rather help people through it because we don't want to see animal organizations or other nonprofits fail.
Most definitely. And I'm going to interject and welcome everybody again. You're tuning in to an Ask the Founder Q&A. Judson here, joined by Tammy, the founder and executive director of the Wildcat Sanctuary. Looking forward to celebrating her 50th tomorrow. We've been kind of celebrating for the past couple weeks, hoping to fill our freezer in honor of Tammy's birthday. We've been talking a little bit about the founding of the sanctuary and the origins and some of the early days. Why don't we just kind of take it a different direction and we want to learn a little bit more about Tammy. I like seeing some of those questions. And what do you think, Mr. Benjamin?
Benny's here to say hello to you.
Yeah. He says, I'd like to be where Kiara is. What's Tammy doing in her downtime?
Well, I will be honest, for years there was no downtime. I lived
Yeah.
at the sanctuary, I did overnight shifts, and I'm so thankful now there is downtime. So my downtime is I have a few close friends that make sure I get out of the house. Sometimes go to wineries. I love a lovely family. Benny's going to give you a grooming sister, so I love to be in a pontoon. I love nature, so just sitting outside and being with nature quietly is really important to me. And then, of course, when I go home, I have a husband and a family of pets, and so I really, a lot of my time is spent with my husband and now my family, because I have parents that are aging, and my mom has some memory issues, and so we've been really enjoying quality time with her. But and I read, but I'm not an exciting person. There's no
Any favorite TV shows or movies?
Oh, anything that's Hallmark or any romantic comedy. And my husband laughs because he says that's not real relationships like you. But I love Hallmark channels. I love gushy, really fun stuff like that.
That's fun. And one more kind of just fun Tammy question is Daria was curious yesterday and was wondering about some of your favorite foods, drink, wine or beer.
Well, I'm a wine drinker, so I
Okay.
love wine, and I love to go to wineries and taste new wine. I'm not a wine connoisseur. Everything tastes pretty good, but I like to go to different wineries and see the indoor-outdoor settings they have and the food. Pizza is sadly my favorite, and I think as I get 50 and older, I have to probably start eating more healthy. My husband is the cook in the house. I do not cook. So pizza is my night, and I might do stir fry when I cook, but everything else is my menu's dependent upon my husband's skills.
I like that. Well, I'm going to circle back because you talked about how cheetahs used to be your favorite species, and you kind of touched on maybe that you do have a favorite species. And is there any species of cat that has not been at the Wildcat Sanctuary?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 37 species of wildcats, and we've only had 15 here. So, a jaguarundi, sand cat. I mean, those are cats that I'm thrilled, or palace cats aren't here, because if they haven't been to sanctuary setting, in most cases it means they're not into the pet market or the exhibitor market yet in a huge way that we have to rescue them. So, so as much as I love palace cats, I hope they don't end up in the pet market or need to be rescued. So.
Yeah, that's always an interesting question when I encounter it on the live post is really clarifying, well, it's a good thing that they aren't here, that they aren't in need of rescue. So that's good to hear you clarify that as well. And let's see here, Tammy, where could we go next? I'm curious about this one. I'm excited to hear this answer. So 20 years ago, you started the sanctuary, and kind of in those, the early days, what is a day in the life now? How does that differ from a day in the life then?
It is drastic change. So I think every person that starts a nonprofit, and I did, is to get in it for the animals, right? And so my early days were I worked full time, and I got up in the morning and I fed the cats at the sanctuary. If I was late, I had to call my husband. He'd feed the cats. We had volunteers that came on Saturday, but food prep was in my downstairs laundry room. We did veterinary work on the kitchen table when the vet came. It was very, I would say, primitive, but I was closer to those animals on a daily basis and really got to know the personalities. But as a founder, you can find people that the same thing. Everybody wants to work near the animals and support the animals, but it's harder to find the accountants, the fundraisers, the board members, the legal people. And so you end up having to play those roles and then fill in the animal care department because we have, obviously, if you look at how many people apply for an animal caretaker position, it's quite a few. So I've had to tailor back a little bit from that, which is good and bad. I'll be honest. It was hard in the beginning because I love these animals so much, but my relationship with baby Jenga is very different than it is with the newcomer Shrek, because now there's caretakers that take care of Shrek every day, and they're going to build those relationships. And I've learned that's okay, and I will be honest that when compassion fatigue sets in, I am not as emotionally resilient as I was in my younger years. The losses hit me hard. the what ifs could do, and I know rationally we've done everything. So having that little arm's length is probably good for me as I get older, because I don't know how I could emotionally and mentally kept it up. But my heart is still there, and I love them, and I was just out with a witness protection cat on every step of the way, and so I'm not like dissolving myself of those relationships. It's just I know that there's other people who can do it just as good as I am, and I'm so thankful they're here at the sanctuary.
Yeah, and I mean, and just to clarify, you used to be one of those people. You were cutting the food every day, hauling water buckets, picking up poop.
Picking up poop, writing project lists, mowing the lawn all
the time.
Yes,
we know that.
And shoveling off perches, going out there in the cold, making sure heat lamps work. And now we have supportive departments to do that. And of course, I'm not 100% hands off, but I can't take the credit for doing all the hog running and skirting and the heavy, hard work now. I mean, I still go out there and see the animals, and I'm part of all the vet meetings and rescues and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's just, my day now is about sustainability, and that means making sure that no matter what happens to me or anybody at the sanctuary, that we survive for another 20 years for the animals that are here. And so my thing is, it's like right now I'm working on the financial audit.
Yeah.
So boring, but so important. So important that we're stewards of our donors' dollars. There was a loose Siberian lynx spotted on the East Coast, so I've been reaching out to authorities and partners there to make sure everybody's aware of that. And what the outcome is going to be for there. We have the Big Cat Public Safety Act, so we've been writing letters. We had the Minnesota legislation that was getting challenged, and so we've been testifying, writing letters on that. I had to write a legacy postcard to go out for legacy members, and so my job is kind of like yours, but yours is a little more fun. I'm bringing the sanctuary to people, but in a different way, through the uproar, through the websites, through e-news, through donor calls and Zooms, and then I'm also working outwardly with the industry, like Big Cat Sanctuary Alliance, and all the other sanctuaries and groups like that. So I'm kind of more outward facing now, the day-to-day tactics.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, and again, I think that carries over to what I was mentioning earlier about your marketing and advertising experience and your strategicness for kind of going about advocating for the cats and all of these captive wild cats. And I thought this was an interesting question. When did kind of the accreditations or that kind of come into the fold? When you started the sanctuary, did you immediately have to go out and get accredited by one of these accrediting bodies?
I didn't have to, but I wanted to.
Okay.
I have always been a check the box type of person. I'm now more creative and fluid in my older days, but I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it well. If I can't do it well, I'm not going to do it at all. And so right away I went out, because I also needed to gain knowledge. I went to visiting other sanctuaries to see how they did things. So many people like Pat Craig and Tippi Hedren and Cheryl Tuller of other places, we all networked together, learned from each other in the early days. And then, it was just really, it's just a growth process for so long. And it's nothing I did alone, that's for sure. It took a lot of people support and all the people that are here now. And I remember the days when there wasn't social media, and my first newsletter, I think, went to my mom, dad, and a few college friends.
Wow, holy cow. And I'm going to interrupt us again to just welcome everybody and hope everyone's enjoying themselves. I see we have over 100 people watching right now. We are celebrating Tammy's 50th birthday. We've been celebrating it by helping fill the freezer over the past 2 weeks. We're going to have our big finale tomorrow, but now we're having a great time with the Q&A with the one and only Tammy Thies, the founder of the Wildcat Sanctuary. We've talked a little bit of her personal life, a little bit of the evolution of the Wildcat Sanctuary, its origins, and a little bit of now kind of an evolution of the captive wildlife crisis. And maybe first off, I mainly kind of want to focus on hybrid cats, like I see Benny walking by me. Is when did you start to see those types of hybrid cats or designer species show up and be in need of rescue in a forever home?
Yeah, when we started the sanctuary, they were not in really there wasn't a population of them. We never heard of them. And it was probably 3 years in, I got the first call on a Bengal cat, and I had to go, what's a Bengal cat? And they're like, well, it must have a tiger in it. And I'm like, I don't think there's a tiger domestic cat hybrid. So I researched what a Bengal cat was. It was surrendered for territory urination. I went to the shelter, and they were talking about adopting her out, and I just saw, again, like, she is gorgeous. She's stunning. She's beautiful, and she pees everywhere. And that's why she's surrendered. Like, people are going to adopt her for her look, but she's going to be rehomed again. So, excuse me, Kiara, we're talking about cats.
Yeah.
And so I agreed to take her in, and she was my first. Her name was Abby, and she was a little 5.5-pound Bengal. And then that opened my eyes. And once I did it once, then other shelters started calling, and then Savannahs came into the work, because Savannahs were not in existence back then either, and these more just kind of domestic hybrids started coming, and now it's as big a problem as the big cats are.
Interesting. Did you ever see, I think that at least that, as long as I've been around, we're seeing kind of the servals being glorified on social media, for example, and we've had Bruno, we've had Fiona, and other serval escapes that unfortunately haven't ended up with them ending at sanctuary. But have there been kind of different phases of where these exploiters are, trying to market bobcats or servals?
Yeah, there's been it's been cyclical. So for so many years, it was cougars, pet cougars. Now we see unreleasable wildlife, but it was pet cougars and pet bobcats, because they were selling for $250 to $500. Social media is really what's driven up the price of the big cats, but still the hybrids are more expensive than buying some of the big cats. Now I think social media, because servals are so spotted and so photogenic, we see them all over TikTok and social media, but what's really frustrating is you see a lot of them that are adolescents, and I can guarantee you the majority, excuse me, sweetheart, I'm trying to talk to Judson, the majority of people do not keep them through their lives. And we saw how many escape, and I know so many other sanctuaries have servals that have escaped, and so many other sanctuaries have servals that people have falsified as Savannah cats to try and skirt zoning and legislation laws. And then tigers, orange tigers have always been the biggest, and we used to see so many orange tigers, and then people started breeding white tigers, and all of a sudden sanctuaries had just as many white tigers they were rescuing as orange Bengal tigers, and now the white lions. I mean, even 5 years ago, we didn't see white lions in sanctuaries, and now every sanctuary has white lions. And so these breeders are breeding what the public says they want to see, but they're also sending the public a very false message of what they're doing.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad that you expanded on that, because that's something I've heard you talk about, but I've always wanted to learn a little bit more on. So, well, Tammy, we've had a good, great Q&A session. We're not winding it down just yet, but we're going to be asking our kind of final few questions. And while, excuse me, Kiara, I got a cat behind me, I got a dog in front of me. And while we're kind of winding down, I'm going to go through the comments just to make sure I haven't missed anything. I can tell that Kiara is basically stealing the show.
That's okay. That's why I have
from
it
the
there.
comments.
And I just want to reach out to everybody that says thank you for all the birthday wishes. Thank you for everybody that sent me little notes. People that have donated to Fill the Freezer fundraiser. We're really, really excited about that. It's really nice to feel so much love from everybody. And then this weekend I get to have a little break and then spend it with my family and husband. So I'm very thankful for that too. So my biggest wish was to be on a pontoon, just relaxing. No big parties, no big, I don't need a tiara or anything like that. But my sister is known for making everything bigger and better, so we'll see what happens. But I'm hoping
she won't come and stick pink flamingos all over your
I'm
lawn.
hoping it's just a relaxing weekend in the sun with my family.
Well, fun. That's marvelous and much deserved, obviously, as well. And Tammy, you and I were kind of talking about this a little before we started. And the question is, what is your hardest rescue? And maybe just for you to answer that, how you'd like to answer it.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that this morning. It was so hard because so many things go through your head. Everything from the hardest case of abuse, or the hardest health case, or the hardest capture. But really, there's so many, And to me, the hardest ones were the ones that we were called to rescue cats in dire need on a property, but we weren't allowed to take the rest of the animals. So, for example, we went to Nebraska, and big cats and cougars were in these teeny, horrible areas. But there were bears and worse. There were about 200 dogs in things that almost looked like the Korean dog crates. They were so small, dogs had chewed off their legs, and we had no jurisdiction over helping the rest of the animals. We filed complaints, but to walk away and leave animals behind is the hardest thing to do, even though you don't have a legal right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine so. And you know, I think I've been holding this one off because I think it would be a great way to wind down our Q&A session here. And if you had a magic wand, Tammy, is there anything you would change at the sanctuary, and would you do it all over again?
Anything I would change, yes. When I decided to move the sanctuary from Atlanta to Minnesota, I would have stopped halfway so that we would not have the winters we do. But I moved home because my family was here and I needed the support from my family. And my soon-to-be husband was here, and of course I wanted to be near him. And so I didn't realize how hard having 4 seasons as drastically we do at the sanctuary would be. And then the question is, would I do it all over again? You know, this is a hard one because I don't want to be deflating, but most of us founders that go to conferences and talk about it, we would still want to be in the industry and we'd still want to be doing the work, but we wouldn't have founded a sanctuary again on our own. I'm so thankful for where we are now, but I didn't know how much it would take out of me and how much that we want to prepare for, like I said, the next 20 years. It's not about just today. It's about all of these guys that live here will have another 10 to 20 years. And so I have to make sure when we take an animal in that we're sustainable for 20 years. And that's a lot of weight. And luckily I don't share it alone because all the donors and supporters and staff feel the same way. But yeah, I would be in the industry. I'd be knocking on the door of one of the other accredited sanctuaries asking if I could be an employee of theirs. But I might not take it on all myself again in the beginning.
I just have a feeling that no matter what, this would be your destiny, and the world's a better place for it.
Well,
so thank you.
I'm lucky to have met so many wonderful people along the way, and even those hardships. I mean, there's been many over the years. To see where we are now, and to see the people not only that work at the sanctuary, but our supporters outside. Like, I am so blessed. I like to have people like you. I mean, you will do anything that's asked, and I think every staff member is the same way. I don't know if every other sanctuary and facility is that lucky, but kudos to all of you because is not, the sanctuary is not me. I might have started it, but it's definitely not me.
It becomes something very special and something that I'm privileged to be a part of, and we're very fortunate to have all of you supporting us
and
as well.
I'm super excited. I want you to join us tomorrow when it's actually not a serious thing. It's a fun day to see, not Baby Dash. We got to come up with a new name for him, Dash, and Baby Jenga.
Baby Jenga.
To celebrate the birthday party.
We made some fun cakes for them, or kind of ice cakes. Yeah.
And so it'll be a fun birthday tomorrow that we want everybody to join in and celebrating. And it's kind of getting to our finale of our Fill the Freezer, so we're thankful for that. We're thankful. I know we were just talking on the phone about a big beef donation. Well, we have to purchase the beef donation, but then another sanctuary is helping us secure our big Tyson donation again through another supplier. So we're so thankful for them, and when all that comes through, we'll definitely want to do a shout out because people in the industry step up and help. And like I said, we weren't hurting. Except $30,000 worth of meat that's usually donated.
11 months worth of food.
11 months worth of food can hit your budget hard. So we would have done it and pulled out of savings and things like that, but that's why we're kind of doing it today. It's not a dire issue. It's just trying to make up for a lost donation, and we're thankful for everybody that's helping with that.
Very thankful. Well, thank you again, everyone, for tuning in today. You can find this video if you came in halfway. It'll be obviously right on our Facebook page, and we'll be uploading it to our YouTube channel at Wildcat Sanctuary.
And Kiara says bye.
Bye, Kiara. Thank you again, everyone.